This news swept through the desert, capturing everyone's imagination. The tale of the Asha princess, who returned seeking vengeance and managed to defeat 5 major clans with a mere 4-person team, all without taking a single life, seemed almost like a fairy tale. The majority rallied behind the Asha clan, while the younger generation focused more on who would ultimately come on top. Yet, some held different perspectives. Shifting our scene to the desert, a middle-aged man entered a tent. Compared to the biting cold outside, the tent offered a much warmer refuge. On his arrival, 2 young men greeted him and promptly served him a drink. While discussing the impending duel, the man smiled and shared with the youths his belief that if the Asha were to become the head of all clans, they would undoubtedly bring monumental changes. Zooming out, we see the area now teeming with tents. People from various clans had congregated, all eager for first-hand news. The sacred duel between the Asha clan and the first clan unfolded as planned. Asha stepped onto the platform, her presence instantly igniting cheers from the Majin San people, who held a deep respect for true warriors. Her previous commendable performance in the recent battles had won over everyone's admiration. Just then, a wave of excitement surged through the crowd as a hooded girl made a light leap onto the platform, heading towards Asha's. This girl, the princess of the first clan, received an even louder cheer from the clanspeople. Turned out, there was an agreement they had made earlier: no weapons or stones of God's punishment would be allowed in the duel. The girl removed her hood, revealing curly auburn hair and a pair of distinctive, fluffy ears standing upright. Ashes, taken aback, inquired if those were dog ears. Upon hearing this, Lorca, with a hint of blush, quickly corrected her: they were wolf ears. Observing Lorca standing barefoot on the hot platform, Ashes expressed her curiosity about whether the heat bothered her. Lorca, gracefully shifting on her tiptoes and shedding her cloak to display her fluffy tail, asserted that the Majin people never fear the hot sand. Yet, seeing Lorca's expression tells a different story. Either way, Ashes commended Lorca for maintaining her transformed state, suggesting it was an effective method for adapting to the consumption of magical power. However, Lorca, flicking her tail in slight confusion, clarified that her appearance was not a training exercise but a consequence of the power bestowed by the 3 gods. She then tells Ashes that she was unable to revert to her human form. Ashes pondered whether using a bone, as a distraction, might shift Lorca's focus and reduce her combat effectiveness, recalling how this tactic worked well with Maisie. Just thinking about this made her chuckle. Misunderstanding Ashes' expression, Lorca felt she was being mocked and underestimated. Ashes, however, quickly clarified that she was actually thinking of a friend. Lorca was a bit skeptical; nonetheless, they then retreated to their respective corners. The first clan chief, observing his daughter, experienced a poignant sense of loss. His daughter, having awakened as a goddess and gained immense power, was unable to return to her human form. This meant she could not lead a normal life as a girl, nor any handsome warriors would want to marry her. Well, I would disagree. Perhaps the handsome warriors in the comments section wouldn't mind the fluffy ears, am I right? Anyway, naturally it became essential for the chief's daughter to ascend as the clan leader, commanding respect and quelling any remarks about her unusual appearance. When the chief struck the gong with all his might, it marked the beginning of the duel. Lorca, with astonishing agility, leaped off the ground and attacked Ashes, her hands morphing into powerful beast claws. Ashes, displaying remarkable reflexes, caught Lorca's claws firmly and, with a deft twist, flipped her over her shoulder, slamming her onto the ground. Unrelenting, Ashes charged towards Lorca, aiming a powerful punch at the spot where Lorca had just been. However, Lorca, with quick thinking, rolled away in the nick of time. Positioning herself upside down, Lorca launched a kick at Ashes. Ashes, ever alert, caught the kick, applying intense pressure and causing Lorca's calf muscle to tear. Enduring the pain, Lorca raised her other leg for a sweeping attack aimed at Ashes' head, her leg transforming mid-kick into a thick, wolf-like limb. Ashes released her hold and ducked, narrowly avoiding the swipe. Lorca, not missing a beat, transformed her other leg as well. However, Ashes noted that Lorca's head and abdomen remained vulnerable. In a swift motion, Ashes threw her fists, compelling Lorca to defend herself with her claws. Seizing the moment, locking Lorca's arm, Ashes headbutt Lorca in the face, causing her to cry out in pain as tears and blood mingled. Capitalizing on Lorca's momentary disarray, Ashes spun around and delivered a potent kick to Lorca's abdomen, propelling her across the platform. The crowd, previously raucous, fell into stunned silence, not anticipating Lorca at such a disadvantage. Only Ashes knew Lorca was perfectly fine from that kick. Turned out at the moment of impact, Lorca had cleverly curled her body to mitigate most of the damage. Recognizing Lorca's resilience, Ashes tells her that playtime is over, urging Lorca it's time to get more serious. After tumbling on the ground, Lorca underwent a dramatic transformation. Her body expanded, tearing her clothes to shreds as she morphed into a full wolf form. A colossal red wolf now stood towering on the platform, taking Ashes by surprise. As the wolf launched its attack, Ashes' demeanor shifted to seriousness. The wolf, with its immense size, boasted a speed on par with a god's punishment warrior and a strength that cannot be underestimated. Lorca, now in her wolf form, had a significantly extended reach, making it hard for Ashes to simply dodge her attacks, left with little room for evasion. Suddenly, seeing one swipe attack from Lorca, Ashes was forced to lift her arms and blocks the attacks directly. Below the platform, Echo, witnessing the intense battle, couldn't help but grasp Andrea's wrist tightly, her concern for Ashes evident. From the audience's perspective, Ashes appeared to be primarily on the defensive, struggling to find opportunities for counterattacks. However, Andrea offered reassurance to Echo, pointing out that Ashes possessed a remarkable resilience to physical attacks and had yet to exert her full strength. Echo, observing Ashes' quickened breath and less relaxed demeanor, wondered if that was really the case. Andrea then mentioned the unique extraordinary witch training method from the era of Takira, which involved accelerating magic power consumption to maintain a state of constant training. Roland had once remarked on this method as being ancient and inefficient, suggesting that time would be better spent on reading and studying the mechanics of muscle and bone converting chemical energy into mechanical energy. For Ashes, however, absorbing textbooks and understanding complex biology was a more daunting task than physical training. Therefore, this old-school and hands-on approach to training was more suited to her style. As the duel continued on the platform, Ashes saw an opportunity to gain some strategic advantage. She created some space between herself and Lorca, reaching into her waistband and pulling out a black cloth band. This action prompted Lorca to pause and question if it was a weapon. With a calm smile, Ashes casually dropped the cloth band to the ground. The audience was taken aback as the item, which appeared to be a simple waistband, landed with a dull, heavy thud, suggesting it was made of iron or steel rather than soft fabric. But this was not the only weighted item Ashes had concealed. She then crouched down and removed two similar bands that were tied around her ankles. Rewinding to 1 year and 3 months prior, it was revealed that Agatha had initiated Ashes into a rigorous and unique witch training regimen. These seemingly ordinary cloth bands, crafted meticulously by Soraya, each weighed tens of kilograms. It was a training method designed to enhance physical strength and endurance by constantly wearing these heavyweights. Once Ashes removed all the bands, she immediately felt a significant change. Her strength surged back, and a familiar sense of lightness filled her body. This time, she can finally go all out. Meanwhile, on the platform, in a fierce escalation, Ashes initiated her counterattack. Lorca, embodying the ferocity of her beastly form, lunged forward with her powerful claws. But Ashes' agility was faster. She swiftly maneuvered behind Lorca, delivering a series of heavy blows. Lorca, undeterred by the pain, swung her claw in retaliation, only to miss as Ashes leaped backward. What followed was Lorca's thick tail lashed out, creating a gust so strong it forced the spectators to squint. At that very moment, Ashes seemingly vanished from the platform. Then, suddenly descending from above, Ashes, no longer holding back, landed a devastating punch directly to Lorca's eye socket. Lorca's response was a hoarse scream, "Oh ouch, that must have hurt." Ashes thought Lorca would surrender by now. However, as she tried to pull her arms out, giving Lorca an opportunity to concede, she found herself in a precarious position. Lorca's eyes were shut tightly, her facial muscles clamping down on Ashes' right hand. In a swift move, Lorca struck with her massive claw. Ashes, unable to evade, braced for the blow with her other arm, absorbing the impact. The force was so intense it felt like her bones might break, the impact twisting her left arm into an unnatural shape. Lorca didn't waste a single second, unleashed a wild howl, and lunged forward with her mouth. Ashes, refusing to retreat any further, engaged once again. She was significantly stronger than she had been a year ago. Her magic power, circulation, strength, and defensive capabilities had all seen substantial improvement. A year earlier, such a strike could have shattered not only her arm but potentially her spine and organs as well. She then realized that might just be the life and death scenario Agatha had described. Both of them were severely wounded, yet neither showed any sign of backing down. Ashes, now relying on her one functional hand for support, delivered a forceful kick aimed at Lorca's forelimbs. With a loud crash, Lorca's limbs bent outward, losing balance and falling backward. Shaking all over, she willed herself to stand. The chief, anxiously shouting from the stands, urged Lorca to stop. Lorca, gasping for breath, replied that Ashes wasn't faring much better and just needed to hold on a bit longer. The chief clenched his fists, torn between wanting his daughter to become the clan leader and not wanting her to get hurt any further. Ashes wiped the blood at the corner of her mouth. Lorca was right, Ashes was no shape better than she was, her arm broken and hanging limply at her side. What mattered now was resolving the duel. For a moment she thought if she blinds Lorca's second eye, this would certainly force her to surrender. However, with Leaf's herbs, Lorca would be fine for the time being, and Nanawa's healing would restore her fully upon returning to the western region. Ashes inhaled deeply and crouched slightly, both preparing for the final strike. No matter the outcome, only one would remain standing on the platform. The heavy atmosphere enveloped all spectators, silent except for the roaring flames beneath them. In a sudden turn of events, just as Ashes was poised to make her move, an urgent scream from Echo pierced the air, alerting her to an imminent danger from above. Ashes swiftly looked up, spotting a massive beast plummeting down, its talons outstretched menacingly like razor-sharp blades. With a burst of strength, Ashes lunged to the side, narrowly evading the creature's dive. Lorca, too, attempted to dodge, but her injured limb betrayed her, resulting in her being struck directly by the diving beast. The impact was colossal, the force of it causing the platform to crack as if struck by a meteor. Lorca's cries of pain echoed through the arena. The onlookers, stunned, quickly identified the creature, no other than a four-winged eagle. The crowd was in disbelief, unable to comprehend how such a terrifying creature could dare to intrude upon the sacred sea of fire. Amongst the Majin Sand people, weapons were drawn in response to this unforeseen threat. Meanwhile, Ashes realized that this creature was actually a demonic mixed-breed beast. The demonic beast had Lorca pinned down ruthlessly, its claw clamping her down like an iron vice. To the horror of all present, the beast then began to viciously peck at Lorca's head while maintaining its oppressive hold on her. Ashes, witnessing a fellow witch in peril, could not just sit back and watch. She called out to Echo for support and then charged headlong toward the mixed-breed demonic beast. Just moments before, outside the Sea of Fire, the Majin Sand people had emerged from their tents, catching sight of the demonic beast. However, the creature seemed to disregard them entirely, focusing its attack directly on the sacred platform. In a decisive move, Ashes grappled with the demonic beast's curved beak as it lunged down for another strike. The sharp edges of the beak sliced into her arms, causing blood to drip onto Lorca's face. Despite the pain and injury, Ashes held her ground, refusing to flinch or retreat. Meanwhile, Lorca, weakened and battered, managed to lift her head slightly. At this critical juncture, Echo's voice began to resonate across the battlefield, casting a calming rhythm and gradually dispelling the panic among the fleeing crowd. With the chaotic surroundings now subdued, Andrea seized her chance to provide critical support. From her vantage point, Andrea unleashed a volley of gunfire, utilizing her sharpshooting skills to their fullest. Her bullets, precisely aimed, repeatedly struck the same joint on the demonic beast, eventually severing its claw in two. Capitalizing on this sudden turn of events, Lorca mustered her remaining strength and delivered a powerful kick to the beast's abdomen. The force of her kick sent the demonic creature reeling and flying away from the platform. In the midst of the chaos, a few First Army soldiers seated among the spectators opened fire in an attempt to bring down the demonic beast. Despite their efforts, the creature's erratic flight pattern made it difficult to land a solid hit. Ashes shed her cloak and used it to cover the rapidly shrinking form of Lorca, who had reverted from her giant wolf state. Upon examining Lorca, Ashes discovered severe fractures in her chest bones and rib cage. The warriors of the first clan, recognizing the immediate threat, encircled the injured pair. They drew their short bows and launched a volley of arrows at the demonic beast circling overhead. However, their attempts were futile as none of the arrows managed to strike the agile creature. Then, the demonic beast dived towards them once more. Ashes, cradling the injured Lorca, rolled out of the way just in time to avoid the beast's sweeping ground attack. Tragically, several clan warriors who couldn't move quickly enough were captured by the beast and then dropped from a considerable height. It was apparent that the demonic beast was not only powerful but also possessed a significant level of intelligence. It seemed to understand that Andrea's rifle was the only weapon posing a real threat to it. At this critical moment, Hummingbird used her unique ability to reduce the weight of the falling warriors, enabling them to land safely and avoid further casualties. Ashes, analyzing the situation, deduced that the demonic beast was specifically targeting their group. However, the majority of the First Army soldiers were not present at the scene to help out. In a critical turn of events, Lorca, despite her grave injuries, grasped Ash's hand and urged her to throw her upwards. Simultaneously, the demonic beast shifted its focus, menacingly targeting Echo and the others. Hummingbird, quick to respond, seized a nearby weapon and, alongside Andrea, launched a counterattack. Unfortunately, their efforts were stymied by the beast's hard beak, which proved to be an effective defense. Meanwhile, Ashes was initially perplexed by Lorca's request. Lorca, with urgency in her voice, reiterated her plea, emphasizing that this might be their only chance. She acknowledged her inability to move independently and her reliance on Ashes for this desperate plan. Lorca tells her that a warrior's greatest fate is to die in battle. She conveyed her gratitude for the exhilarating duel with Ashes, however, her fluffy ears drooped in a mix of resolve and sadness. Ashes, recognizing the determination in Lorca's eyes, agreed to her request after a brief silence. However, she reassured Lorca that this would not be their final battle. Lorca, interpreting Ash's words as an attempt to comfort her in her final moments, with a self-deprecating smile, Lorca said she wouldn't be able to stand or see properly anymore. But Ashes tells her to not worry. She then speaks of an angel named Manhwa in the city of Neverwinter of Grey Castle. She described Manhwa as a miraculous witch capable of curing any wound. Upon hearing this, Lorca's wolf ears perked up instantly. Ashes acted decisively. Gripping Lorca firmly by one leg, she awaited the perfect moment as the four-winged eagle dove towards the platform's center. With a powerful spin, Ashes hurled Lorca directly at the beast. The demonic beast, anticipating easy prey, opened its beak wide, ready to bite. However, in a stunning transformation, Lorca morphed into her giant red wolf form mid-air, delivering a forceful slap across the bird's face. This strike twisted the eagle's head to one side, and without losing momentum, Lorca ferociously bit into its neck. At this critical juncture, Ashes coordinated with her companions. Andrea, heeding Ash's call, passed her rifle to Echo. As the demonic beast plummeted from the sky, overwhelmed by Lorca's attack, Lorca reverted back to her original form. Ashes, without missing a beat, quickly wrapped Lorca in a cloak, scooped her up, and retreated to safety. Observing Lorca, now unconscious and severely wounded, however, she was still breathing. Meanwhile, Andrea readied her magic arrows, preparing for a decisive strike. The demonic beast, realizing its peril, frantically attempted to flee, its wings beating wildly. But it was too late. Andrea unleashed a magic arrow, its brilliant light streaking across the sky and piercing the beast's body. In a spectacular display, bursts of golden light erupted from within the creature, akin to a mini-nuclear explosion, signaling its end. In the aftermath, as the remnants of the beast rained down, Andrea stood proudly amidst the chaos. Ashes, looking up from below, called out to her asking why is she still standing there. Andrea tells her that she wanted everyone to remember her powerful image, but then she suddenly covered her mouth, fearing pieces of the creature's flesh might fall into her mouth. As the chief gently took Lorca from Ash's arms, his shoulders trembled slightly, a mix of relief and emotion palpable upon hearing his daughter could be saved. At that moment, his priorities shifted profoundly. The ambition of leading the first clan paled in comparison to the well-being of his daughter. The next moment, he declared the Asha clan victorious. The response from the crowd was immediate and unified. Everywhere, whether below the platform or upon it, people chanted a singular name in unison, Asha. Shortly after Isheko, the leader of the Asha clan, also known as Zor Silvermoon, stepped onto the dueling platform. Her voice, clear and resonant, cut through the clamor, reaching everyone's ears. She introduced herself not only as the leader of the Asha clan but also proudly as the echo of the Grey Castle Witch Union. She recounted her harrowing journey, from the loss and exile of her people due to the Iron Whip clan's schemes, to being sold into slavery and enduring a grueling journey from Green Waterport to the capital of Grey Castle. Echo spoke of her fortunate rescue by a witch organization and her subsequent move to a small border town in the western region, where she adopted the name Echo, a name she came to prefer over her original one. She described the hardships she faced, yet emphasized that the joy and fulfillment she found were far greater than any she had known in the desert. Echo detailed the transformation of the once insignificant border town into a bustling, prosperous city, attributing much of this change to the efforts of one man no other than Roland Wimbledon, the king of Grey Castle. It was his influence and actions that had fundamentally altered Echo's fate. Ashes whispered to Andrea that Echo's words didn't seem to match their previous rehearsal. Andrea smiled and replied that it must be what Echo really wanted to say, and all they needed to do was applaud. Although everyone was quiet, they were probably wondering why she was talking about Grey Castle, a place not known for accepting Majin Sand people. Echo answered these doubts head-on by telling them while that might have been true in the past, things were different now. A phrase often uttered by His Majesty was that the city of Neverwinter didn't care about one's origin. Echo tells everyone that the city was home to commoners from all over Grey Castle, witches, and even people from different races. This alone proved the king's kindness and tolerance. Roland planned to lead everyone here out of the bloody and barren desert, bringing them to accessible water and larger oases. Echo, on behalf of King Roland Wimbledon, conveyed his intention to become the great chieftain of the Majin Sand people, uniting the entire desert and protecting every one of them. The title Great Chieftain was unfamiliar to the audience, but it seemed to imply a leader of all clans. Amidst murmurs and discussions, the Backwater clan chief who had lost to the Asha clan previously stood up and questioned how Roland, not being the Majin race, could rule the entire desert. To answer his question, Echo calmly asked if the messengers of the three gods who once ruled the desert were the Majin race. The clan chief hesitated, unable to answer, because he knew too well that the legends depicted the messengers without a consistent appearance. However, every Majin people knew the messengers were not Majin race. Still defiant, he argued that the divine messenger's law stated that only one who could create boundless oases and save people from hunger and thirst could rule the land, something the king of Grey Castle couldn't do. Echo, unbothered, asked if that meant he would acknowledge the king's right to unify the extreme south and serve him if he could bring new oases and save people from hunger to the Majin people. The man nodded. Echo stepped forward and declared that King Roland might not be able to turn the extreme south into a boundless oasis, but he was willing to welcome every one of them into Grey Castle, where they could live by lakes and forests, forever free from thirst and sandstorms. This was the king's promise: he would bring a new oasis, the vast, unending greenery of the north. And forever, this new place would be their never-fading oasis.